Welcome back. Now time for Options Corner. I'm here now with Rick Ducat, lead markets technician for the network, and we're talking a winner of the week, AMD. And I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek, Rick, because AMD is not a winner today, as we've pulled back now almost 7% on the session. We've sort of teetered around about 6 to 7% for daily losses. I mean, a name that coming into today had gained 40% this week on the heels of a deal with OpenAI. And I mean, everything right now circulating with AI has been a huge tailwind for the stock. But today, giving a probably necessary pullback, but it's picking up pace with the overall markets here.
Yes, volatility can cut both ways. You can see it, kind of in real time, as we were saying. The pullback in AMD still outpacing the SMH and the tech sector and the S&P during the past 52 weeks, though. So everything is great, right? Well, if we kind of compare AMD to its other peers in this chip maker sector, actually, even after this 30% whatever move to the upside, it's still the back of the pack against these other companies here. It only briefly outpaced NVIDIA for like one session, I think. Now it's back at the bottom here. So what does that say? That after this big move, it's still the laggard, so to speak, for this group here. But, nevertheless, still some good news for the bulls in this name.
Okay, yeah, and so as far as overall just recent activity, I mean, AMD tends to trade with massive volume, and that's one of the reasons it always catches our radar. It helps that it's still up roughly 30% for the week. So as far as recent options activity, what else are you watching for here? So
there was a couple of news stories today that were pretty important. The tariffs, obviously, specifically seems to be talking about rare earth minerals, which they are used for semiconductors, for these chip makers, powerful magnets and other electronics here. The global supply chain for this whole industry is really concentrated in China, so a whole question mark for this sector. But also, the Senate passed legislation requiring AI chip makers to prioritize domestic buyers over China as well this morning. So that also could affect these companies like NVIDIA and AMD. But we could also look at, starting with our chart here now, we had a big push to the upside. We gapped up. The low point came in near 203. The next highest point here that would be a supportive area, previous high 186.65. So those would be some downside areas to keep an eye on here. The high that we reached, 240.10, that still is the high water mark from the last session yesterday here. But now you can see that we are still within the boundaries of a symmetrical triangle type of price activity here. So still, the potential for a bull pennant type of situation where we could get that big push to the upside. That's what the bulls would want to see if that pattern were to play out here. Now we can see as well, if we were to add some of our other studies, our short-term 9-day exponential moving average in blue lines up pretty closely with those old lows near 203. Meanwhile, our yellow 21-day EMA is closer to that 186, 187 area here. That comes in at 184. Volume nodes, we can see there was some trading activity here near around 210. That was a more concentrated area. Things really started to pick up again at this small spike area near about 175. Notice that RSI, our momentum indicator, unfortunately is starting to move a little bit lower for the bulls. It has slipped below that overbought area here, giving us a bit of more of a bearish signal here. But, price still hasn't really collapsed quite yet. So maybe not all is lost here. We'll have to see what next week will bring us.
Yeah, and I will say that if you were, in looking at this name and, obviously assessing the activity for the week, I'd say that call options were looking pretty lucrative. At least over the last 4 sessions or so, as we've seen, flows just be hugely optimistic now outside of today. So when you have a move as substantially to the downside as we're seeing today, how do you go about then, shifting gears and assessing things, just given the fact that still on a week-to-date basis, it's been a very strong week?
Well, you could try looking at the expected move for the November 21st expiration, for example, plus minus $42 approximately, 19.2% one way or the other here. That low end, 177, lines up with that heavy volume area that we were highlighting earlier as well. So that would be a notable area to watch here. But to the upside, it's a bit farther of a stretch here. That would be probably more in line with our +3 standard deviation channel. One interesting trade today, minus 1200, January 15th, 2027, 210 strike puts at a 40.96 credit and opening neutral to bullish play. Short puts there to open, $4.9 million credit received. It would need a 23% move to the downside to break even for this one. That is quite far out, more than a year out there.
Yeah, and so AMD taking it on the chin here a bit as we are at least nearing now session lows, which we have not yet touched officially, but the market also now nearing some of their session lows, at least in the NASDAQ as far as we're concerned. So down another 7.25% today, but appreciate it to Rick Ducat for all of the breakdown here on AMD. Still a winner of the week, no doubt about it.